Today is November 6th. I finished half of this new scarf, the wider one. This is the narrow one that I still need to unravel. I do think this one looks better being just a little bit wider, but I also like how the colors are distributed here. They are more evenly sprinkled all over the fabric, but on this one the colors were more clustered. The difference is especially noticeable if you take a look from a distance. Here is my finished second scarf. I added some fringe to it. I think it looks quite lovely. And I'm going to add a label from the yarn to the finished scarf, because whoever is going to be the person who's going to eventually wear this scarf, I think it will be useful for them to know what the scarf is made of, because some people do have fiber allergies. And also this label has instructions for how to care for this item: hand wash, lay flat to dry. So I think that could be useful information too. So I'm going to add this label to this scarf, and for the first one I have the label as well. And tomorrow morning in the daylight I will take pictures of these scarves on a mannequin to show you how they drape. So it's been 3 days since I started crocheting the first scarf. Today is the evening of the third day. So in 3 days I crocheted 2 scarves, which I think is a pretty good pace, and I have 7 more scarves to go. One last thing I want to do before going to bed is to roll up this yarn into balls so that tomorrow morning I can start crocheting the next scarf. Recently I have been thinking a lot about my crochet journey, and it really is a very long one, about 30 years, a little bit more than 30 years. That's how long I've been crocheting. But I realized that the last 10 years of it have been documented online. I realized that it was 10 years ago, November 2011, that I started my blog, lacycrochet.blogspot.com, and back then, for the next few years, the main theme of my blog was crochet doilies. I guess that was my doily era. During that time, I probably crocheted several dozens of doilies, and I even had a feature on my blog called Doily of the Week. And sure enough, every week I crocheted a new doily and showed it on my blog, presented it to the world. But of course, back then those were not my patterns. And actually, when I started my blog, not only I could not write my patterns, I couldn't even read and understand other patterns in English. Back then, when I started my blog, everything I knew about crochet, I knew in my native language. So back then, my blog was simply a place for me to archive the pictures of the doilies I was making or whatever other crochet projects I worked on, and to simply share them, show them to other women who were interested in crochet. But as my blog started growing and more women started commenting, asking me, how did you make this? How did you make that? Which stitch did you use? I arrived to the point where I was, okay, I need to learn the crochet terminology in English. But during that time, about 9-10 years ago, we didn't have so many crochet resources online as we have nowadays. And it wasn't easy to find a decent crochet pattern online that would be free. But I do remember this website. I probably can find the name of it if I look through my blog. I don't remember the name of it right now, but that website had lots and lots of vintage patterns for doilies. patterns from the 30s, 40s, 50s. So during my doily era, I've made so many of those vintage doilies following those free vintage patterns. And it was from those vintage doily patterns that I learned crochet terminology in English, but also I learned how a crochet pattern should be structured and written. And the next step was trying to create my own patterns. Well, I didn't really think back then as creating my own patterns. It's just I would crochet something small, maybe a small doily or a coaster or a bookmark, and the readers of my blog would ask me, oh, how did you make it? Can you share what stitches you used? So I started doing that. I basically just started writing descriptions of how I crocheted this or that. And like I said, back then there weren't that many free online crochet resources. So the readers of my blog were very grateful and appreciative and very kind. I was receiving so many kind and positive comments on my blog. And with time, my pattern writing skills improved. I was making a little bit more complicated things. I started trying different types of crochet, not only doilies and thread crochet. And eventually I built up pretty big collection of free patterns on my blog, which I was quite proud of, until I started receiving messages and comments from the readers of my blog saying, hey, I saw your free pattern for sale on Etsy or eBay. So what would happen is people would take the images from my blog, they would crop off my lacycrochet.blogspot.com watermark sign. They would take the pattern from my blog, put it all in a PDF file, and sell it on Etsy or sell it on eBay as their own work. And that made me very, very upset. Okay, I think I should turn off the camera now and focus on rolling my yarn before I tangle it all up and create complete mess of it. I'll continue narrating the story of my crochet journey in the next video.